vibes only. God 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 vibes only. vibes only. God 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 vibes only.
You are now tuned in to the Cosmic Convos podcast, your number one source for accurate, relevant, and thought-provoking astrological conversations in the podcast nation. The place where stars and minds align.
Peace. You're now tuned into the Cosmic Convos podcast. I'm your humble host, Root, and I got my good brother here, Brother Ra. How you doing?
Brother, enjoying life, King. How about yourself, man?
Hey, man, no complaints here, man. No complaints here, man. Just trying to take it to the next level, man. You know what I'm saying? Or whatnot.
Walking right with you, King.
Indeed, indeed,
Right with you.
indeed. Before we get too far, I want to remind you all, make sure that you like this video and subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell or whatnot, you know what I mean? So you can know when we're live and everything like that. And as always, this episode is brought to you by Push It Forward Media Group, Caliprucia Astrology, and our good people over there on Patreon. Big up to y'all or whatnot, you know. If you want to find, more information about Push It Forward and also Ninth Floor Film, shout out to, the film arm or whatnot. Make sure you go hit us up there. Go to Instagram. You can find us at Push It Forward at PUSHITFWD. And from there, you can get to all of our links. Hit that link tree. You can get to everything from there. Specifically following the Cosmic Convos podcast, you can go to COSMICCONVO on Instagram as well. And that's the official Instagram page for this podcast here. Brother Ra, how can the people get a hold of you?
Definitely. You can hit me up via Gmail at calipruciaastrology@gmail.com, or you can go to IG or Facebook and look me up via Shechem Ra. Also, you can find me on Facebook at Caliprucia Astrology as well.
Indeed. Big up to that. So yeah, here we are. Over here at episode 909 overall or whatnot for this podcast, episode 9 of season 5 or whatnot. We're almost at that I don't know. I mean, at some points it's interesting when we're going through these seasons. At some point it feel like it's going fast, and then at other points it's like, man, we only at episode 9.
Right. True.
Or whatnot, but I guess we're creeping up. We'll be at the halfway mark pretty soon or whatnot. So big up to that. I think this season's been pretty interesting. Had an opportunity to cover a lot of moving events and stuff like that, and see some of those old predictions from those older seasons kind of coming to fruition or whatnot. So big up to that. Indeed. Before we get into today's topic, you had anything that you wanted to talk about or whatnot? I know we was chatting about something before we went live or whatnot. That's pretty significant.
Since we are on a podcast that talks about time, right? We deal with time quite a bit, and astrology is nothing but the measurement of time, right? And how it affects us on a global and personal level. They've changed the whole clock system to a degree where now we are no longer going to experience, right, standard time, meaning we won't be changing our clocks backward and forward per the season. We will stay strictly on daylight savings time. So they passed it just yesterday. The Senate passed it yesterday. So interestingly enough, right, time is definitely is going to change. And it was interesting. I was reading a news article about what doctors are saying in regards to the circadian rhythms that we're going to kind of have affected. The circadian rhythms are tied into the day and night cycle, of course, based on the number or the amount of sunlight that we receive in our system. Of course, that affects many things: serotonin, melatonin, right? It affects the moods, right? Depression, things like that. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next few years. The doctors were saying that what they should have done is kept it as standard time and not changed it to daylight savings time. So, because that would have at least allowed us to experience more nighttime throughout the year, which of course, rest is crucial to the human mind and body. So it's just an interesting thing that I saw. I thought it was a joke. I thought I saw it on my phone. You know how they got that fake news out. You know what I mean? Like, this is something that somebody just made up. And so I always research whatever news comes across that seems interesting. And actually, it's true. They actually the Senate passed yesterday to keep daylight savings times daylight savings time in play for the entirety of the year. So interesting stuff. Times are changing, right? And of course, it makes sense. I mean, daylight savings time is an agrarian device that kind of helped out when it was more farming was a lot more in play as far as just the nation is concerned. But now everything's pretty much automated. You have machines that do pretty much a lot of the farming, so it's not really needed. But we should have stayed on standard time, and so just get as much rest as you can, right? As much nighttime as you possibly can stand. So just something interesting to pass along to the people. Also, one announcement before we get started. Classes begin next week, right? We are here already. This is another semester for Kalaprusha Astrology. And so it's classes, all 4 levels will begin next week. So if folks are out there, if you're still interested, you still got an opportunity to join. Definitely going to have a lot of fun, a lot of new students, a lot of people coming through. So everybody's definitely going to have new people to meet, different levels of experience, different levels of knowledge. You don't have to start at level 1, by the way, just so you all know. You can, if you feel brave enough, you can jump into the Jyotishi or the Amyonut level, which is the highest level, if you feel brave enough to do that, right? I would probably recommend most people that don't have any experience start at, the novice or neophyte level, which is level 1. Some people have a good grasp of the materials and kind of know certain things. You can jump into the initiate level, level 2. If you feel like, no, I've got pretty much all the intricacies understood, I need more specific knowledge on transits and how things work and Vargas and all that good stuff, you can join in at level 3, which is the adept level. So all levels are open, right? But just be aware that as you go up, it gets more challenging and more intricate. So just putting that announcement out there for that last minute kind of situational decision people make, whether they're going to do this or that. You're more than welcome to join in before things get rolling. So with that, nothing else. What about you, brother? You got anything?
Make sure you subscribe to Ninth Lord Films. We got some more stuff, some clips gonna be dropping pretty soon or whatnot. Working on some other short films or whatnot coming, so definitely stay tuned for that or whatnot. And just stay linked in. The primary means of communication that I'm utilizing is the community tab. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Look out for announcements and posts on the community tab. That's where you would get the most accurate information about what's going on with the podcast and everything like that. So big up to that or whatnot. But yeah, so we as promised. I'm sorry, I'm having some slight mic little situation right here that I'm trying to get together. So excuse me. I think we better right there. All right. So so as promised, we've been teasing that doing a revisiting this topic. We originally kind of covered it over in season 1 or whatnot. So you definitely want to go back and check out the first version of this. But it's a popular topic always. Really honestly, it's kind of when we start talking about the ages, and we talk about it a lot, but just overall, it's not something that I hear Vedic astrologers really talk about that often. What about yourself, Rob?
I do hear more Western astrologers talk about it, um, and it's just because a lot of um, misinformation is out just regarding that we're purported to be in the age of Aquarius.
Right.
Um, and so I hear a lot, I mean, of course, you got a song about it that was done in the 60s. So, Western society is trying to already kind of put us in that particular light, and I get it, but, um, in reality, we're really not. And I do hear some Vedic astrologers like Joni Patri. I've heard her talk about it a couple of times. I
But
haven't
she's an
heard.
old Western astrologer.
She is. That's true,
Right.
right? Old habits die hard, right?
Right.
So yeah, that makes sense. So I have heard her mention some things about it, but I haven't heard too many, people go into depth on it. I've heard them kind of give general, kind of. It's the same information if you kind of look at it from both perspectives, because, a lot of the information they have in the West, can be shared with the East, but I haven't heard them kind of break it down. You know what I mean?
Right.
From a more intricate and more well thought out perspective. And that's what we're going to try to do today, folks, is to give you kind of an understanding of what it looks like and how to gauge it from a real um, Vedic conceptual understanding. Because, when we look at it, you can see what's going to happen. I mean, you see what's happening now. We are on the verge of the age of Aquarius, but we're not there. And for good reason, because you can see, I mean, the world at large. And, let me precursor this with some information that is important for people to realize. I know what has been said about the age of Aquarius being this utopic type of world that we're going to live in. And that is actually quite the contrary to what these
And
things are
probably
all about.
probably dystopic.
Yeah, it's not gonna be what the movies or the common perception is going to be. And it's just easy to understand once you know what the signs really do mean. There's one guy, and I can't remember his name, Atef. He actually said exactly what I say, right? That, and it's not all bad, it's not all good. There's always a mixture of everything. Everything comes in duality. But he said himself, and I would love to have remembered his name, but he was like, it's not what you think it's going to be. It's going to be quite different than what is being told to the masses. And he's right, right? And we see the eye on. And I wonder if he's actually, I think he studies a little bit of Vedic astrology or Sidereal from the way he talks. But, um, you know, it is a very interesting thing to unfold when we look at how it looks on the inside. Um, if you ever want to understand something, the way the easiest to understand something is to go to what we call the Dastana houses of a sign, right, or an ascendant, because that's the only way you're going to understand a sign is through the ascendants, and that is something we teach in level 2, right, or in the initiate level class, where we get into the ascendants and really unlock the keys, the secrets to understanding the signs themselves. Because when you look at Aquarius, you're thinking, okay, air sign, right? Fixed sign, Saturn ruled, Rahu co-ruled, that kind of thing. It's all right. But there's some other things that kind of go into this when we look at the inside of it from the inside out, per se. Like, let's say if you were an Aquarius Ascendant, I think we even got Aquarius Ascendant in the building. Peace to Owani, right? I think she's Aquarius in the house, right? So this should probably be a good show for her. Um, so Aquarius, you know, number one, right? When you look at the Dastana houses, what are those? 6, 8, and 12, right? Those are the key giveaways to understand a sign and its challenges very quickly, right? Cuts right to the chase. And so looking at how things work, right? when you understand something from those perspectives, then you see what challenges, what kind of things are going to be the Achilles heel of the time, right? Just for example, if like Pisces ascendant, right? Pisces ascendant, you're seeing, right? It is a journey, right? A Pisces ascendant, for example, let's just talk about Pisces just briefly. The sixth house from Pisces is Leo, right? Well, in the age of Leo, what would be the challenge, right? Or the theme that kind of creates acute or, issues that cause challenges to the world at large? It's Leo, and Leo
Yeah.
is governments.
Right.
As you can see right now, the world at hand is under
Le-
crossfire, right?
leadership
Economically, right?
crisis.
Leadership crises is the big fallout with the age of Pisces, right? And this has been that way for the last 2,000 years, right? Well, 1900 or so. So it's been this way for quite some time. You can see, right, that these Piscean type of fallouts is between these powerhouses that don't want to surrender or yield to one another. And so they have these kind of onslaughts or battles. They're enemies with each other because one wants to stay in power and the other wants to stay in power. So Leo kind of unfolds or unpacks what issues are at hand within the Piscean era, right? So it's governmental problems. And also, think about it from this perspective. Pisces is a sign that deals with Sagittarius, which is the clergy, which is spirituality, right? Which is higher knowledge, right? Understanding, right? Expansion and growth. Well, the government, right? And the clergy, right, have always had, even from time immemorial, have always had this battle, right, between one another. Who's going to rule, the clergy class, the priest class, or the governmental class, right? The governmental bodies. So this imbalance happens, and the sixth house deals with your imbalances. So this is what we see in the age of Pisces, dead giveaway, right? So we're going to look at the age of Aquarius from this type of perspective, but we're going to go through a few things and unpack kind of each area in general so that you understand what's happening here. Um,
Indeed.
so
Well, I
what's
mean,
going to happen?
well, first thing I think we probably should do, because there's a lot of people that probably haven't seen the first episode. You know, let's talk about the when it actually occurs. And just the like the breakdown, the actual science of how do we
How
even
do we
come up
find
with
it?
these
Yeah,
ages.
right, right. Um, excellent point of excellent jump off point. So, you know, um, the way we find it is fairly easy, right? It's
Yeah.
not very hard. It's not rocket science, right? In the sense of finding what age you're in. And the way we use this is, I'm not going to get an explanation of the theory behind it and procession, that kind of thing. That, you can research your own. But just to give you kind of a just general how and where what we do and how we find it, every March 21st, right, which is the spring equinox, is considered the
This
day,
Monday.
right? In fact, it is coming up. You're right. The first day of spring is coming up fairly quickly.
Hmm.
So we look at that day as the marker, right, for when we gauge or read what sign we're in, and you look at the sunrise, right? At the time when the sun is rising, you find the placement of the sun and see what constellation or sign it's in. That's pretty easy. And I mean, if you all are able to find it on a program, you can go to stellariumweb.org. Great place to see it there, right? If you are
The
adventurous enough and you have a good point of view, right, and you can look due east, right, when the sun is rising, you can see it then too.
the
Um,
Night Sky app that I pulled out
right.
last or was it like one of these episodes?
Yeah, you did. You pulled out Night Sky app, Stellarium. They've got a few out there, right?
Hmm.
you can go and see on March 21st. You have to look at you have to find, of course, the time that the sun rises. Look out and see what sign is rising when the sun is coming up. And the sign that it's in, people, is Pisces. It is not Aquarius, right?
Right.
So it's been this way, right, since right around 300-ish AD, right? It didn't start with 1 AD. It didn't start then, right?
Mm-hmm.
We still had 300 and some odd years to go after, you know,
Aries.
the Common Era, right? I don't want to say Christian
Oh,
era, the Common Era, right?
right.
After one, the Common Era, we still had 300 and some odd years to go. But it's interestingly enough that that is when the Council of Nicaea set in stone the canon for what we know as the Bible today, right? And that is when the age of Pisces began, and that's when the conquering of the world began with Christianity, right?
Right.
And symbol of Christianity is what? A fish, right? Go
Yep.
figure. I think somebody knows something that we don't know, right?
Right.
Some of us don't know, right? Some of us do.
Go
So
go check out that episode too. We did Age of Pisces as well, so definitely go check that one out as well.
yes, we've covered quite a few ages. So it's a nice piece to just sit back, get you some tea, get your coffee, whatever it is your habit is, and just enjoy, right?
Yep. It's a
So
playlist. It's a playlist
absolutely.
dedicated to the ages. So definitely check out that whole playlist.
Yeah, it's a nice piece to just chill and get into. But um, the age of Aquarius doesn't start for at least another 400 years. Right around 24, and you must understand, right? The ages, we give or take about 72 years,
Mm-hmm.
because it takes 72 years to move 1 degree of precession in the sky. So to go backwards 1 degree, and to understand, the signs don't go forward in precession, they move backwards. So we're not going from Pisces to Aries and so forth. It's from Pisces to Aquarius to Capricorn to Sag. They go backwards. So since we're moving backward, the next sign going back from Pisces is Aquarius. The age of Aquarius begins right around 24, between 24 to 2500 uh, um, Common Era, right? So we've got about a good 400 years left before it begins. So we are on the cusp, however, meaning that we're on the very edge of it. And the beautiful thing about Vedic astrology is the nakshatra system, right? Um, it really is. I mean, it sets apart itself from Western by leaps and bounds, right? The nakshatra system is the secret behind how we're able to see certain things where Western astrology just doesn't have the equipment nor the knowledge to do it.
Right.
And we are in the age of Pisces at about 5 degrees, right? 5 degrees Pisces. The sun is at 5 degrees, right, on March 21st, right, this year, right? And it has been for the last 70 years or so, well, last 60. So these degrees tell us where in Pisces we can look within the context of what's called an asterism or nakshatra, and that spans about 13 degrees, 20 minutes of each sign. So not all of Pisces is the same energy, right? We have different stars, right? Asterisms or stars that tie into these particular constellations, the different portions of Pisces. And we are on the cusp of, right on the edge of what is called Purva Bhadrapada. This is a asterism that is shared with Pisces and Aquarius. So it
Right.
overlaps, right? And we can see, because we're close to that age, that because Purva Bhadrapada overlaps into Aquarius, then when we say we're on the cusp or the dawn of that age, you're going to feel and see some of those similarities that Aquarius will share, right? Through the nakshatra.
Right. And
This is how. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
this is what I have pulled up right now. This is, I mean, you can ignore all the planets except for the sun for right. I mean, but this is like for March 21st, 2022 at about sunrise. You can see what Rob was saying, where the sun is at, right? It's at about 6 degrees, 45 minutes, Uttara Bhadra and whatnot, right here in the ascendant.
Exactly. And so we're not in the age of Aquarius yet. We're just not. And this is universal as far as how it's measured. Now, again, Western astrology does not use the stars to gauge the placements. They gauge things based on something that is antiquated and was established over 2,000 years ago. So, according to them, and this is why the date systems are different, you're going to have different signs falling in different times. So, again, it's confusing to some people. They say, well, I thought it was this, but it's this. You got to go and look outside. You got to look up. You got to compare as to what's above to what's below. And so this is how you begin to measure and find what real age we're in. So we are still in the age of Pisces. We still see religion playing a major role, right, in the lives and kind of decisions of people on the planet at large. It is waning, and it's waning because we're at the end of that age, right? Religion is now, and I believe I've heard that the church is literally at, I think, 3/4 or no, 1/4 of the capacity it once was 20 or 30 years ago. Just 30 years ago, more people were in church, more people were in a synagogue, more people were in a mosque, right? It's changing, right?
Yeah.
Not just because of the technology, that's not it, right? It's more people are waking up to realize that something of this timeline is not fitting in with what is being told to us at large. Right? It's something's not measuring up. We're in the end times and those kind of things, and we've been in the end times since I think 1666. I mean, even before then, right? We've been in the end times. The end times is nothing new. Eschatology repeats itself, so they kind of keep moving the goalposts, right? The goalpost keeps changing. Well, we're waiting on this. We're waiting on that. We're going to be waiting forever, right? Because there is no such thing as the end times, because that's a biblical connotation. There's no judgment day, right? There's no end of the world as we know it, but there is an end of an age, and so we're coming upon that end, meaning the energies of Pisces, which is religion, right? Which is confusion, the two fish swimming in opposite directions, right? The age of fantasy, the age of illusions is coming to an end. And the age of reality is coming to us very quickly, but it's hard for us to accept certain pills. It's hard for us to swallow certain things because we're still stuck on the belief systems. And this is just the way it is, right? But it's changing, right? Science is taking over, right? Scientific theories, right? Proving certain things to be false or true. This is what is coming to pass. And so the age of Aquarius, which again begins, roughly 2400, between 2400 to 2500 common era, right? This is when we will begin to see a whole different apparatus amongst us. And it's just interesting how we just talked about time and how, time is manipulated. Imagine if we never changed to 1 AD. What's the real year? Right? Have you ever wondered that? Like, what's the real year we're in? Like, we're 1 AD now, is 1 AD, and now we're all the way at 2022. Well, what's the real year? Right.
Right.
Um,
It's interesting because, it's kind of, I mean, it's kind of a common thing when we're dealing with the West, right? Because they have this tendency to want to always want to reinvent the wheel, right? Like they do things, and even though there's a a standard in the past, instead of building on that standard, they always want to try to create something new to call it their own. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like
Right.
even with with astrology, like we were talking about the differences between Western astrology and sidereal astrology, Vedic astrology, and such or whatnot. There are people who know that it doesn't match, but it's still like they want something to call their own or whatnot.
Mhm.
You see this in a bunch of different fields,
Confusion.
even science, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like, come on, you see, we had aqueducts, we had dams, we had redirected rivers, we had, of course, pyramids and all types of advanced structures. You think we didn't know the laws of nature? But when they got to it, what did they do? They acted like they discovered it and gave it their own names. Newton's law, first law of nature, like this was first discovered when the law of gravity and stuff like that. When an apple fell off a tree and hit him in the head or something, like
Right.
we know that that this stuff is not new. We knew these sciences. We knew the theory behind them. We knew the law, what I mean, the mathematical equations behind them and stuff like that. But it's this drive to always want to just reinvent the wheel just to say they did it.
Of course. And that's what a child does. Child is all about me, mine, and I. Right. Not we, us, and they. Right. So, the new kid on the block is gonna do that. Right.
Right.
The new kid on the block is gonna say, "Hey, look what I found!" Right, when it was already found quite a long time ago. And this is admitted. They know, right? The age of reason and all those kinds of things is not anything new, right? Under the sun. And they were profoundly confused when they went to the Dogon, and the Dogons told them about a system when we knew about it for thousands of years. We knew about Sirius and Kemet. So, you know, how did you know this without technology? Well, we had technology, just not your technology, not the same type of application and usage of it. But nonetheless, right? Like they
Right.
say, there's nothing new under the sun, so to speak. So, um, when we look at things from an astrological perspective, and astrology is nothing but astronomy, right? Just from another perspective, right? It's nothing different. We have to use astronomy to get the astrological understandings of things. So they were sister sciences in ancient times. You have what's called the seven liberal arts, right? And we actually had a neter, which some call a deity, right? Neter is a principal, deity is something that's extraneous to you. Neter is a part of you, two different views, right, of something. But we had a neter called Shishat, right? And if you ever see Shishat, she has like looks like a palm leaf, right, or like like a leaf over her head, and the leaf has seven different, um, portions to it. Well, the Greeks came in and they changed it, and they called it the trivium and quadrivium, right? But Shishad was the principle of laying the foundation for a temple, and one of the symbols for her was a rope, right? And you had to use, here's the seven principles you had to configure: geometry, right? Astronomy, right? Logic, rhetoric, art, right? Um, I think grammar, and forgive me if I don't remember the seventh one, right? But there's seven liberal arts, right? In fact, the Statue of Liberty, right, is where they get it from. If you look at the Statue of Liberty, she has seven different points on her crown. So we've always had an understanding of astronomy, right? We just personified it underneath Shashat. She's just a personification. I could say that it's Shashat, and it's the same way of saying the seven liberal arts, right? It's just personified. But astronomy was part of those basic sciences that the initiate had to learn before he could go on to the higher sciences. Nonetheless, astronomy is astrology, but it's just this two sides of the same coin. It's the effects, right, of what the causes of what is produced by our cause. Same two sides of the same coin. And in
You know,
this, go ahead. Right.
what I mean, point of that, because it's interesting when you look at certain planets, like, they always say that like Jupiter astronomically kind of protects the Earth from a lot of asteroid attacks and different things like that. And then you look at how, we actually, look at Jupiter, in astrology. You understand what I'm saying? And his role is like super benefic. It's, you know what I mean? It has a, you can see where these correspondences come from by looking at how it behaves in the actual sky.
Oh yeah, it's one and the same. There's two sides. There's two sides of the same coin, right? We
Yeah.
can see it from an astronomical perspective because Jupiter's gravitational field around it is 10 times the size of of the planet. But when these asteroids and these outer bodies come in, right, it can pull and attract those things into it, and literally just like any type of formation of the liver can take these formations, take it, process it through, and make it more friendly for the body. Same thing as what Jupiter does for the solar system. So, you know what I mean? It's always two sides of the same thing. It's never separate. It's just we never separated in ancient times. These people separated now. They think they have an advantage, which actually have a disadvantage because you're not seeing the effects of those things. But nonetheless, when we study these principles of the heavens, and how they affect us on earth. When we look at the age of Aquarius, we are on the verge of having that shared nakshatra called Purva Bhadrapada. And what you're going to find is the more we move towards Aquarius, Purva Bhadrapada has a couple of different themes to it, right? One of the themes, or one of the kind of symbols that it has, is a two-faced man, right? In fact, if you kind of look at what they call Janus in Roman mythology, right? Janus is a god that looks to the future and looks to the past. It's almost the same thing, right?
Mhm.
So this particular principle looks to the future and it looks to the past. And it's interesting that Pisces houses it and Aquarius houses it. Aquarius houses more of it, but Pisces has 3 degrees of it. So the more we move towards this particular Purva Bhadrapada asterism or star, right, we're going to be looking to the future and looking to the past simultaneously. And in Pisces, it creates confusion, right? Because Pisces is two fish swimming in opposite directions, but yet bound by one cord or one string. And so they're trying to escape one another, but there's an intricate interdependence with one another. And so we're learning now that we are all what? What? Dependent,
Independent, yeah.
right?
We all connected.
But the old way says that we're individuals, but the new way says that we're interdependent. So there's going to be a struggle with this. There's going to be a struggle between letting go of those religious belief systems and acquiring new understandings of the universe. I mean, we just put the James Webb telescope up this year, right? The James Webb telescope hasn't even gotten calibrated all the way yet. It's just being able to bring in all of these kind of new images and photos. So we're still looking out to the future, but we're holding on to the past. And this is what's going to rip us open enough to be able to change the tone and the mindset of the planet. Because once you leave the age of Pisces and get into the age of Aquarius, right, the the two-sided entity will now be looking more to the future and less to the past, right?
Right.
We'll be looking
And
more to, go ahead.
no, I was just saying, we're still about 200 some years from that nakshatra right now.
Right, right. Yep. Actually, about 144 years. 72 times 2 is 144, right? So we're about 144 years and a little bit, some change. I guess about 200, right?
Yeah.
Running on that. And once we get there, right, the world is going to be a different place. Right? It's going to be, it's every year the world is changing rapidly. So once we get to that nakshatra, the bridge between Pisces and Aquarius, right, we're going to have a struggle. There's going to be a major contention of having the old ways play out. What are the old ways? Throwing your trash, right, in the garbage is the old way,
Right.
right?
Landfills.
Landfills is the old way, right? COVID woke us up to the possibility that we don't have to get up and drive every day to go to work, right? That's the old way, right? And the way it's going to work the planet as far as the fuel systems, right? See, those that are
Fossil
empowered know that
fuels. Yeah.
fossil fuels only has so much time left,
Mm-hmm.
right? Fossil fuels will run out at some point. So when they begin to become lower and lower and lower, yes, and Iran has probably one of the largest, right, reserves as far as their ability to stave it off, but nonetheless, even they are going to run out at some point, right? So when these things, fossil fuels, that's the old age, right? Fossil fuels, what else, right? Which of course creates a whole host of different things, right? Global warming, right? Uh, the temperature is rising rapidly. So remember, we're still in the age of Pisces, and when the waters swell, right, and they're going to rise, people. They're talking about we are past the point of return. We're past the point of no return. We cannot go back. The old ways. See, the language, if you listen to the kind of vernacular that's being said in the world, we're past the point of no return. You can't look back anymore. You got to look forward. We're still trying to look back. So this is ripping the planet in two
Yeah.
heads, two faces, right? Going looking in two different directions. We're pulled apart. Two fish going opposite directions, being pulled apart. That world itself is separating from an old paradigm. That's what it really means. And this new paradigm that's coming is something, right, that is frighteningly beautiful, right? It's frightening because of the things we're going to have to face and deal with, but it's beautiful because of the unification that it's going to bring. And the sign of Aquarius is about unification, right?
Right.
Whether you like it or not, you know, people are so terrified of a one world government. I've always wondered why, I mean, this whole Illuminati thing and all that kind of stuff, you know, by that time, the old powers that be, we're talking about those old money structures, those things are dying rapidly, right? Quickly. And I mean, quickly, right? The money powers, the money changers, they don't have too much time left because the way transactions are happening, we're talking about the old way. Let's talk about the economic system, right? We're talking about these two faces. I could take a whole podcast and just talk about one nakshatra with regards to this. Right?
Right.
But think about the money systems, the economic systems, right? Cash is no longer king, is it?
Nope, not really.
It's phasing out, right?
Right.
So this is the one face looking back, or the fish going in one direction, and the other fish going in another direction where the face is looking forward. So now cryptocurrency is now the new game, right? And I'm pretty sure that cryptocurrency is going to be the new value system. They're just going to have to configure a universal approach to it, but it's going to literally be here to stay, right? And I have to
Yeah.
even admit to my partner out there, Dave, big up Dave. It was maybe about what, 10, I want to say even, I don't know, about 8, 9 years ago. We had a conversation. He asked me about crypto, and I said, "Oh man, that stuff ain't gonna be around." I was wrong, right? Crypto is here to stay, right? So that's going to be the new way of transaction, right? Think about it. You got Cash App, you got Venmo, you got PayPal, I mean, even on your phones now, your phone, you just take it and you boom, right? And I've said this before that even happened. I said, "Oh, watch, your phone is going to be the means of transactions," right?
Yeah. I rarely. I mean, it's because I don't like walking with a whole bunch of stuff with me. So I've gotten accustomed to not really carrying my wallet with me all the time like that.
Right.
Because most places I can usually do it with my phone. There are a few, stragglers.
Sure. I mean, I have some cash, but it's not much cash I keep on me, right? I mean,
Yeah.
most people don't carry cash anymore. So this is a whole new way of thought. We're accustomed to it now, but it's a whole new way of thought. I mean, you have to take in consideration just within the last 10 to 15 years to how much life has changed for us. And this is going to be the new way things are going to happen. Every 10 to 15 years, life is going to be look vastly different from what it did before. So this is the face looking forward. And this face looking forward, again, leaving Pisces, going into Aquarius, when we get into Aquarius, is going to look completely different. The world will look different. You won't even, if you died and came back as yourself, right, and said, let me see what you would be completely in awe, right? Then people will not be in the same walk of life that they were, or that they're doing right, how we're living right now. Now, the other thing, of course, we talked about just byproducts. Let's look to the future a little bit and see what happens with Purva Bhadrapada. Number one, the financial system will change because Jupiter rules what? Finance.
Finances.
Jupiter rules Purva Bhadrapada. It is the planet that governs that particular nakshatra or asterism. Right? So it is going to be, and when we look at it from the Aquarian perspective, Jupiter rules the second house of what? Savings, and it rules the 11th house of gains. This is how you begin to look at an age. When we enter into the age of Aquarius, Purva Bhadrapada will be at play. And literally, right, the second house of value systems, right, is going to be completely changed the world over. Pisces is the second house for Aquarius. It is the whole gamut. This is all of it consumed into one. So it's going to change the value systems, the economic systems, the way you save things, what you put away is going to literally be different the world round. Family structures will be completely different the world round. Religion will be completely different in the sense of how we look at it or how we use it on a daily basis. Is going to be completely changed. Not to say it's going to completely go away. That won't happen until much later, but it is going to be on its last leg. And isn't it interesting also that the sign of, or the nakshatra of Purva Bhadrapada is called, one of the deities that's attached to it is called Age of Aquarius. Aja Ekapada, Ajaekapada, right? Well, Eka, right, is one, and Pada is a foot or a leg. So religion will be on its what?
Its last leg.
Right? It will be on its last leg, and the future will now be in full purview. Right? What's going to happen? Also, considering this, if you look at Aquarius as the ascendant for the age, Aquarius is tied to the 12th house by way of Saturn. Saturn rules the ascendant, and it also rules the 12th sign from it, or the house behind it. So what is the house behind it? It deals in excesses, wastage, right? It deals in expenditure or loss. So this way that we've been dealing with our trash, our waste, right? Our kind of what we kind of take for granted and just throw away, right? Is going to be literally tied to you, right? It's going to be tied to you as an individual. So you're going to have to recycle. Watch. Right? We won't be around, I'm sure, for that long. But by that time, it'll be law to recycle.
Yeah, I would.
I mean, we're not far off from it now.
We might experience that in our lifetime.
We
believe.
very well may. I mean,
because the mechanisms are already in place to do exactly what you're talking about doing. Right?
They are.
It just hasn't been enacted on a wide scale.
It's a choice now, right? Where it'll be commandment.
Well, right. I mean, but think about it just 10 years ago or 15 years ago. you didn't have a separate truck to pick up recycling.
Right.
Everybody has 2 cans now.
Not
right.
Well, maybe where you are, right?
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, but
Right.
if
You can, yeah, you
right,
can.
but like over here, most people have 2 cans. You got a recycling day, and then you have your regular trash day. Right. And yeah, so it's what I mean, like it wasn't like that before. You had to go take your recycling yourself back in the
Right,
in the
right. Now it's
90s and
now it's
stuff
way
like
more
that.
convenient. Oh yeah, that's for sure. I mean, even when you take your trash to, like major areas like a mall or something like that, they have bins where you can put, different things, right? So,
Right.
it's becoming more conscious and aware, but by the time it's in play, remember Saturn rules law.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be law that you recycle.
Right.
Right. It will be a commandment, and you'll be fined or disciplined, right? Or you'll have some loss or expenditure if you are not recycling. The age of Aquarius will make sure that whatever we dispose of, right, is being put back into the fold, because by the time we get to this point, I mean, the trash on the planet is just so pervasive, people. It's just ridiculous. I live in Colorado, which, and I can honestly tell you, in comparison to a lot of other places, it is still fairly clean. But back 10, 15 years ago, it was, you would see maybe a piece of trash here or there. Now it's trash everywhere.
Right.
And I'm sure this is the way it's been. It's kind of happening this way everywhere. That trash and the number of people that are just moving around and shifting, people are careless. They don't care. So they just discard whatever on the street, right? At some point, this trash is going to become so overwhelming. The landfills will become so overwhelming, right? Will be our own self undoing. And that is also what the Age of Aquarius ties into. You, man, is his own self what? Undoing.
Yeah.
Right. This is what the Age of Aquarius is going to bring. You are going to have the control over your own loss, right? And the gain that you have will be universally connected to all. The second house and the 11th house tied. Right. Right. And K. Wright Carr asked about the dystopian programming being projected through movies. Sure. I mean, you got to understand there's a two-sided kind of thing when it comes to Aquarius. There's a utopian type of age, right? And there's and some of it's true. I don't want to say that it's not true. The more technological advancements you have, the easier life is supposed to become, right? That is the quote unquote message, right?
In
That
theory.
in theory, right? This is conjecture because we don't know per se, but we can kind of see a little bit of the writing on the wall now. I mean, think about it. How easy is it for you to access things in your home? You have a company called Amazon, right? You can go to Amazon and get anything you want, even food,
Right.
at your doorstep in a day, maybe even the same day.
In a
So
couple
the
hours, man.
access to things is easy, right? You don't have to get up and go and do all those other things. I mean, think about it. You can see, if you really wanted to see the world, you can go to your computer and see it. I mean, you won't have the experience, but you can see it. Right?
Well, I
Whereas
mean,
before, it was seen in books. You know what I mean?
right.
Big
I
difference.
mean, right. And kind of to your point, I mean, that's where the utopian idea kind of
That's
comes
the
from,
utopian, right?
because people, all right, so that was like, okay, we have all these things that can provide us for, so now we don't have to work, but
Exactly.
you still have that old way in play to where, there is what I mean, like, I don't know if they think that we're gonna, biologically re-engineer ourselves to not, it's just, I you know what I mean? Like that's just not gonna happen. I mean, even if you take a person from, thousands of years ago till today, I mean, we still kind of, have similar drives in certain ways. It's just society's different. You know what I mean? The environment is a little different, but I mean, people still have those same particular drives. You're still gonna have, leaders. You know what I mean? Leaders who arise. You're still gonna have people, who are very ambitious. You're still gonna have these elements intact. It's just gonna look different, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, when we talk about the dystopian aspect of it, it's tied to the utopian aspect. They're tied,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
They're two sides of that same coin, right? Think about it from this perspective. Where I live, it's one of the worst smog areas that you can have. I mean, you can look out, and I'm supposed to be able to see the mountains crystal clear. There's a big, nasty, thick brown layer of smog right over it, so you can't really see it. But remember what happened when COVID hit
Yeah.
and
Everything got
nobody
clear.
was driving? The skies were clear, right? So it's kind of this dual side thing, right? That the less you drive, right, the more the air will be clearer, right? But then you also become less connected, right, to your fellow man. I mean, as a young man, when you met a young lady, you asked her out on a date. Now they got dating apps, right? I mean, the way things are headed, and it's a good question, K. Car, that it's twofold. The more technology you have, yes, it makes certain things better, but it also makes certain things what? Worse.
Right.
And so as we progress, it's going to change the dynamic of human living, where now, I mean, if you know a good movie to watch, K. Car and everybody else is in the way talk about the dystopian type deal, Demolition Man, right? With Wesley Snipes and Sylvester Stallone, right? In the movie, right? They talked about, and this, I mean, that was a perfect movie if you want to talk about how it really kind of what they would like to have, because you couldn't curse, right? If you curse, Big Brother would fine you, right? You'd have like
Yeah.
these things. Remember, did you see that movie, right? Where
Hmm.
like the thing when you've been fined $5, right, for cursing, right? Um, Everything was Taco Bell, right? So, right, you couldn't buy meat. If you wanted to buy meat, you had to go to the underground. It was rat meat, right? Um, the way they kind of interacted sexually, right? They didn't touch you. She was like, "Ooh, exchange for the body fluids." Oh my god, right? This is how we do it now. They put on this headset, right? This virtual kind of experience, right? That's right, kind of a joke about, but it's real because that is where we're headed to some degree, right? Another good movie is Elysium to watch. Excellent
Hmm.
movie to watch, right? There was no physical contact, right? No physical contact, right? You, you but in Elysium, right? They had it to where the Earth was just trashed. I mean, it was, you know, trash. I think the guy in the beginning of the movie, one of the kids asked him, "Can we get $5?" And he threw him a coin, right? So the economic system they talk about there is changed, and they have all these elites living out in this in space in this kind of floating kind of apparatus, this floating kind of city, you
Hmm.
know. And they were just, they were, if you were on Earth, right, you were poor, broke, and destitute. So, these movies paint very drastic pictures, but they tell a reality to some degree because, yes, this dystopian process will be ensuing and is ensuing now to some degree, right? Think about from the example of COVID, right? COVID is a worldwide disease. I mean, for example, we didn't have tra- um, you didn't have travel like this when the Spanish flu hit. You didn't have
Hmm.
travel. Airplanes weren't in vogue, right? Like that then, right? You had them, but they didn't have commercial airliners where you could buy a ticket for $50 and you know go ever so far. It's the dynamic is changing, so the transmission of disease, right, is now changed where it's a global event, right? And you're gonna, if people talking about COVID is over, no, it's not, right? Watch, right? Everybody's letting their guard down, aren't they? Right?
Oh yeah.
Everybody's relaxed. Go watch the news. Go look at China. India, Germany, right? They
They're
have
just not
enough,
covering it because of everything that's going on in Russia. They're just
right?
not talking about it anymore. So people think like, oh, I guess it's
Oh, it ain't gone nowhere, right?
nah.
It's still here, right? So, but nonetheless, just disease, right? The way things are transmitted, right? K. Ricard talks about um, social credits. Yeah, it'll be a credit system where finance. I mean, and take for example, look at the ruble, right? The ruble is worth a penny. Did y'all know? I don't know if y'all knew that, right? The economic sanctions that have hit Russia, the ruble is almost worth a penny, right? This is the means. Remember, I told you the means of warfare is going to be what? Economic and technological.
Right.
They are hitting the ruble so hard, they're cracking the financial infrastructure of Russia. It can only last for so long. And the oligarchs, the big wigs that have all those boats, and trust me, at some point they're gonna look COVID. I mean, look COVID. Look at Putin. We've had enough, right? You need to change course, or we're gonna
Right.
change your course. Trust me, this is. I know it seems like it's not working, and I'm not rooting. I don't have a dog in either race because the way they're treating our African brothers and sisters over there is horrid, right? And how do you oppress somebody when you're oppressed? It just amazes me. But nonetheless, right? And that's old. In fact, most people don't know that the Ukraine is where a lot of the Nazis actually held their headquarters, believe it or not. But nonetheless, right? The way things are going to go in this dystopic situation, economic battles will be fought through technology and economics. It will not be fought hard nosed, or it'll be through air warfare. Like having a person with a gun shooting another person with a gun it will be almost outdated. And when by the time the Age of Aquarius comes, it will be for the most part. You have drones, right? That's why they're creating these super weapons, right? Where these super bombs, where when they come from space, right, and hit you, right? They're where it's almost unstoppable. This is the type of warfare that will be played out. It will not be conventional warfare for the most part, right? They talk about nuclear war. That is a possibility. Let's visualize that doesn't happen, but it is a possibility. So these types of warfares, which are fought on a grand scale, will be from a very technological and advanced perspective. That is the age of Aquarius in itself. And nonetheless, even when you look at the third house for Aquarius, right? Aquarius is going to push us to advance very quickly as far as technology, communications, right? Because the third house of communications for Aquarius is what? Aries.
Yeah.
Aries pushes, it advances, it leaps without looking, it goes forward without even taking consideration, right? That is going to be how things are going to go so fast, so quickly. Aries likes things that are quick, fast, instant, right? And the third house deals with what? Transactions, communications, right?
Mm-hmm.
It deals in short distance travel. It deals in how we interact with one another. It deals in communities, small communities, neighborhoods, right? It deals in literally emails, messaging, anything that deals with the exchange of ideas. The exchange of ideas is going to be so fast, so far, so quick, right? It's going to blow your mind. If you saw it, if you were to reincarnate or to come back as yourself and say, I remember from back then, you wouldn't even be able to, it'd be almost mind blowing.
Right.
That's
Right.
the utopic side. The dystopic side is you make mistakes when you do this. Right? Aquarius is a fixed entity. It does not like to deal with things that are going to challenge its view.
You know, it's interesting. I know you talking about movies, but there's another movie that's interesting that has an idea that's kind of floated out there, especially like in, on the left side of, the political realm. It's a movie called Sorry to Bother You. You ever seen that?
Never seen it.
It came out, a couple years ago, whatnot. But basically, they one of the key things that happens in the movie is this company that arises that basically, they house you, they feed you, they don't pay you, but basically it's this huge warehouse where people can live, their whole families can live in there. You know what I mean? And they go and they get these contracts, and you're basically free labor or whatnot. So you got places to stay, you got food, but it's free labor or whatnot. But on the same token, while they're doing that, they're also experimenting. You know what I mean? They got this thing where I'm a spoiler alert. They, had people take this little concoction that they put together that basically makes them more efficient workers and basically turns them into like some kind of, half horse, half person little thing in there, so they can carry the boxes better and stuff like that.
Wow, that's great. That's a wild movie right there, right? But I mean, take into consideration, right? When we talk, just go back a house to the second house, we talk about finance, right? And the financial structures will change, right? We'll have a global economy, which we have one almost already now, right? I mean, we're almost at a global level economy. But think about what happens. You get rid of cash, right? You get rid of so-called crime. You don't get rid of crime, right? It just takes a different form. But people are going to be stealing food, right? They're going to be stealing clothing, right? Think about the homeless situation right now. I don't know about where you are, brother, but it has boomed exponentially here, right? The homeless situation is on fleek status. I mean, it's just out of control.
Right.
When I was a young man, they had one area, which is like a little skid row area. And you kind of, you knew that's where you could go to see, people that were homeless. Now, literally, bro, outside across the street from my house, they set up a little tent. Right, this little couple set up the little tent.
Yeah, we got tents under the highways here in Atlanta.
I mean, I'm sitting here watching them across the street from my house, and I don't live near any place that would be considered, like Skid Row. I mean, I don't live in no Taj Mahal, but I'm just saying it's a neighborhood, and I'm just looking across the street, and this couple set up shop. They left an inordinate amount of trash. Remember, right? This whole thing. How we're talking about how things are going, this is what we're seeing, right? I mean, they set up a little tent, had the little setup, it was raining and all that, and they literally had just trash everywhere, right? And this is why, I mean, the trash is just so pervasive now, because the homeless situation is it's ridiculous, but it's because of the financial structures and the way things are, right? They're separating the poor from the rich, and the gap is becoming so wide that people that just had normal everyday jobs, you could do it. It's just boom, it's changing right now. Go ahead.
Tesla, they when they announced in their annual report that because they were supposed to be making the Cybertruck, right, the electric pickup truck, but they decided to delay on that to 2023 and focus on the humanoid robots or whatnot that they're creating. That's basically going to be designed to do day-to-day type labor. They already have they're like 5'8". Well, they weigh like 125 pounds. They can lift this much, you know what I mean? And that's right.
There's a company called Miso Robotics. Check it out.
Yeah. They do. They got the the hand that flips burgers and all that stuff like that. That a restaurant can hire.
What do you think the stock is going to do?
Oh, out through the roof. So that's, like, of course we could kind of geek out on this stuff, but on the other note, the practical side of it is that you need to know what's kind of going on, because the economy is shifting right in front of our eyes. There are, you being able to go to Target and get you a little low paying job to kind of get yourself together or whatever. That's not going to be as available to you anymore. Nope. The idea, and one thing that's important, like the idea of having a job is really like an invention on a grand scale that happened in Pisces, right? You know what I mean? Because it really, I mean, slavery is the first time that you had consistent people who are working for something that they don't necessarily have any equity in or whatnot. And you know, I mean, like we had it in Kemet when we had large scale projects like pyramids. Like, damn, you would have people come into the city and they'll bring they essentially was like, you know, independent contractors that come into the city and work for a particular project to accomplish it. But that wasn't how everybody pay, you know, not paid their bills, but that's not how everybody fed and clothed themselves back then. You know, everybody had their own craft, had their own trade, different things that they did. You know, you could see us reverting kind of back to, we're going to have to revert back to that system, because the need to have large scale employees doing technical, you know, low level, not low level, but low, you know, low skill work, you know, every day-to-day work is not going to be there anymore. Right.
Yeah.
You know, you could look at like where I'm from, you know, up in the Midwest, from Cleveland and stuff like that, and Detroit.
The car industry,
you know,
the automobile industry is an
steel.
exact example of that.
The steel industry, all those manufacturing plants, you know, I mean, you know, people used to, I mean, my grandfather, you know, worked at, you know, this chemical manufacturing plant, you know, retired, laid, you know, own property, still paid.
Then you could make a decent dollar, buy yourself a your home, your family a home, put your kids through college, and retire. That's dead.
Oh yeah, that's gone. I mean, and you see the like I said, if you want to get an idea what that might look like, go to those places. You know, you know, I took
Flint.
my mate to
Flint,
right.
Flint.
You know, I took my mate to where I'm from, Ohio, in Lorraine, Ohio, for the first time or whatnot. Some years ago, I took her up there. The first time she had been up there, and then she was like, "Man, it looked like a bomb got dropped down here," because it did. Man. It did. A bomb did get dropped out there.
Yeah, an economic bomb. Yeah,
right. You know, because it's just
like, and the people flood into larger areas because they seek what? They seek work.
Yeah, opportunities. Yep.
So, you know, this is what we're going to see as things progress. But back to the third house, right? The third house is Aries. So things are going to move fast with the communication and the exchange of ideas, right? It's going to be full speed ahead, right? But here's the strange thing about Aquarius, people. It has a two-sided element to it. It's ruled by Saturn, but it's also co-ruled by Rahu. So remember we talked about that two-faced entity that wanted to look forward and backward, right?
I got it on the screen.
Aquarius is ripped apart because part of it tries to be traditional from the Saturn sense of things, but all part of it is rebellious, right? And deals with things that are beyond the status quo or beyond, right, the comfort zone of people, and it deals with things that are foreign or taboo or things that are not of the norm, because Rahu is also ruling it. So it's ripped apart, right? And so there's a sense of frustration because it wants to do both at the same time, and it can't.
Right.
It's confusion, and Aquarius is also called a karmic backlog sign. So what that means is that all of the stuff that you didn't deal with in Pisces, you're going to have to face it in Aquarius.
Right. And Aquarius, I mean, another thing about people that can look at it as far as like, you know, what it might look like. I mean, first of all, I don't know a whole bunch of Aquarius ascendants.
They're the rarest ascendant.
Yeah, you know, but the ones I do know, and then even the famous charts that I know, it's kind of, it could be a bit of a tumultuous or just a very strange, you know what I'm saying? Like it creates interesting individuals, you know, very, yeah.
He's all about technology, but he still tries to incorporate the old ways. Right. And if you look at him, he's kind of like, you know, how medicine is beginning to look, right? That medicine is not just relying on old antiquated modes. It is looking to new technologies. You know, Rahu rules technology as well.
Right.
So it's also a technological sign in the sense that, right, it moves in directions that is contradictory to one itself. That's why it's strange, because it's contradictory to itself. Right?
Mm-hmm.
One is old, one is new, one is antiquated, one is modern. Right? So it's a different type of energy, but nonetheless, the fourth house of Aquarius is Taurus. Right? And we talk about the home, the community, right? The neighborhood, right? Or not the neighborhood, but just dealing with your homeland. What's going to happen is you're going to have to deal with things on a local level as far as food is concerned, right? These big farms, right? They'll be there, but in order to get real healthy, viable food, you're going to have to begin to farm near where you live. Watch. They're already talking about it now. In fact, across the street from my house, they have a community what? Garden,
Garden. Yeah.
right? Right? They have a community garden. They're growing the food right there. And literally, I mean, you can only do it for so many months, but they're going to start to build these enclosures that you can begin to do it what? Year round. And
Right.
that's going to be the new way you do a lot of your grocery shopping, because the way these kind of structures are set up with the Age of Aquarius, right? It's going to be where the food is going to be tainted or poisoned to some degree because of the atmosphere, because of the way that the sunlight is going to be, the seasons are going to be crazy. I mean, we're already experiencing tornadoes in the middle of winter, people, right?
Well, I mean, even the consumption of meat is gonna. I mean, because you
Gonna be in
can't.
it.
Yeah, I mean, because I mean, as the planet population's growing, right?
Mhm.
You can't. Everybody can't eat meat. Not on the not. You know what I mean? Where you can pull up. I can. You know, if I ate meat, I can. You know, after we get done with this podcast here at 1 o'clock in the morning, I can go find me something. You know, I can find me some chicken or a burger just at any time of the day. You know, you just it's just not realistic.
It's not sustainable. It's just not
Yeah, not
sustainable. No.
yeah.
So your household, you're gonna have to. It's gonna be forcing you to get along with people. Watch,
Hmm.
right? The economy, the way it's headed. If you can imagine, like I said in Elysium, the little kids say, "Can I get $5?" And he threw him a coin, not a dollar, a coin, right? I mean, the rate of the way inflation is going. I mean, look at the gas. Just take right now as today's time as a litmus test for what is to come. The gas prices are ridiculous. It's going to continue. See, what they do is they raise it a little bit, they raise it a lot, and then they drop it down. But they don't go all the way back down. They just keep it at $3. You'll be happy with $3. Oh, thank you. Right. 350. Oh, the gods are helping us now, right? Then keep going up and coming back down, going up and coming down. But what they're doing is cooking a frog slowly, right? You don't cook a frog all at once. You turn it up notch at a time, right? And the frog is so comfortable, it's thinking it's great, but you're being cooked, right? The economy is being rigged to the point where at some point, I mean, think about this. I want you to think about this for just a second. Russia only controls 10% of the world's petroleum at large, period. It does not control that much petroleum here, folks. It doesn't. I'm sorry. Right? There's more oil we get from the Saudis and things like that than we probably get from Russia. It doesn't control that much oil.
It's
It's
just the value,
worldwide though that it impacts, and it impacts Europe.
right?
Germany gets half of its oil supplies from there. America doesn't, right? But it's a global what? Economy,
Market,
right?
yeah.
And so a barrel of oil is skyrocketing, right? Because it's global. So again, you got to consider, right, that if it's global like that, back to the second house and the 11th house being tied via Aquarius, when we get to that, finally get to that age when they can sing the real song, the age of Aquarius is here, right? By that time, money will even be a concept that you and I can recognize. like my man said here, it'll probably be credits, right? Or some
Right.
system whereby you exchange and it will be equal the world round to some degree, right? I mean, you got to understand how this is headed. Think about it from this perspective. If you're farming at home, or your home or general areas where you get your food from, think about the major stores and what they are going to have to do to compete. The costs are going to go even up higher there. They won't go down, they'll go up. You think it's going to get cheaper, it's going to get more expensive. So to have a steak, that'd be like $25 for the steak, right?
Oh, that's $25 now.
Right. Right. You know what I mean?
I
You'd
mean,
be
or more.
paying,
I mean,
inordinate
yeah.
amounts of money for, you know, for meat. It's gonna get that way, and that's the dystopic idea of what we're looking at here is where we're headed. The fifth house is for Aquarius is Gemini, right? And the fifth house deals with number one, the intelligence, right? So the intelligence in Gemini is literally the sign that deals in intellect. So, and in fact, if you look at it now, intelligence, they're making you think that intellect is intelligence. It's not, right? But it's leaning more and more towards that. The more data recall you have, the more information you can display. Oh, he's so intelligent. No, that's not intelligent, right? And it's dangerous because it's hard to determine what's what. The creative side of things will come through more things that deal with technological advancements. That's just how it's going to go, right? The technological side of things will be the creative aspects of man. How much faster can we communicate? How faster can we get things done? Remember, Mercury is Quicksilver, isn't it? Right. And it rules the fifth house. So the creative aspects of man will be through, right, Mercury. How fast can we get it done? What kind of shortcuts can we take? See, one of the things that Rahu does, he likes to leapfrog. One thing that maybe most of you don't know, Rahu likes to leapfrog. He likes to skip steps, right?
Right.
Saturn rules it, so thank heaven that Saturn is there because Saturn is going to force you by law to face some realities. But Rahu likes to go from 0 to 190, right, in the blink of an eye.
Real quick.
Real quick. It's an uncoiling of things that happens quickly. So this is what we're going to see when we get to that point. Now, the sixth house deals in Cancer. It's Cancer. What kind of what do you think is going to be wrong with the planet at large if you understand how astrology works? What type of sign is Cancer? What's the element?
Water. Water.
The water on this planet, people. Right? I can tell you, right? It's going to be very disappointing to most. The water. When I was a kid, you can drink out the faucet. The faucet water was clear. You drink that faucet water now, right? They say you ain't going to be sick, but I beg to differ, right?
I'll be honest with you though, from an engineering perspective, I think people just thought it was.
No. I'm telling you, I know that the taste. See, where I live, we have deep rock water. Right? So we have our water system was one of the best in the country. Our people buy our water, like literally, it's transported around the country. So where I live, literally, the Rocky Mountain water system, artesian water was what we were drinking. Now we buy artesian water, right? So
Right.
I'm telling you, everybody that lives here, that's been here for over 20, 30 years, that's been around, they'll tell you the water is different. The water system, the taste of the water was like, it was crisp, it was clean. Now it tastes like, you give that aftertaste, that like chalky taste in your mouth, right? I mean, it's just, and what it is just the chemical treatment process that they're doing. The more because we're drinking recycled water, people. That's what we really are drinking. You're drinking somebody's bath water for all intents and purposes. It's not coming directly as it would back in the day when it was clean, fresh water from aquifers and from
Well,
runoff and like that.
it depends. I mean, because they haven't really like what you're talking about, like direct reuse. That's not 100%.
Not 100%, no, but
It's not
part of it.
100%, and but you still have to get your water from the water body source wherever region you are, wherever that water comes from. Mostly, usually is a river or something like that. In most places, and for you got a good, because y'all getting it from pretty much from almost a well type source or whatnot. But basically though, they your water that leaves your house or business or wherever it goes back to that water source somehow, or some fresh water source, and then indirectly you get it back from that way. But as far as like taking the water that comes out of your house and then turning that right back around, they haven't really quite started doing that yet. Because when I was in college, I was a part of I worked at a treatment plant and we were doing research on that thing, that thing in particular you're talking about, you know what I mean? And providing the studies and the research to start seeing if it's something that can be practiced, wide scale or whatnot. But the quality of the water, as the methods that they were using in earlier times, there's some things about it that wasn't, that wasn't sustainable, right? So that's why you have like Flint, like it might have been okay for a few years, but over time you can't use those type of methods to disinfect the water, to remove this particular things, and then there's certain little waterborne little spores and different things like that common methods like chlorine or something like that. Chlorine's a common disinfectant, but I know in Atlanta a lot of times you have these water boil notices. You understand what I'm saying? But that comes from the fact that they have an older water treatment system, and chlorine does not get rid of that that spore that makes us have to boil our water. You understand what I'm saying? Or whatnot. You got to use something like ozone. You understand what I'm saying? Or whatnot to do it, but that's expensive. So a lot of what you're seeing is
really expensive.
Right. You know what I mean? And it's better because it's not really a chemical per se. You understand what I'm saying? It's ozone. It's oxygen times 3. You know what I mean? It's
I have
3.
an ozone machine in my house. Yeah. So
right. You know what I mean? So it don't leave any residuals or nothing like that. But you gotta be in a municipality that can afford to run that, and that's what we're seeing.
Yeah. That's like millions and probably. Yeah, that's $1 million, multi-million-dollar project. That's just not practical.
It's a $1 billion water treatment system.
Sure it is.
Billion.
But nonetheless, the water is world. Even and in America, we're spoiled, right, to a great degree. But the world over, right, the waters are going to be tainted, right. Think about the 6 houses illness.
Mm-hmm.
So waters will be sick, right. The oceans. The rainwater. I mean, acid rain is real. I mean, it may not be what you think it is, but think about it from this perspective. When they spray chemtrails, it comes back down, right, to the earth. The earth reabsorbs it, and it processes through whatever means, and then of course, at some point, it comes back to you in various forms, in various different ways. So the water itself will be literally, right, part of the challenges on this planet. That's a big thing. I mean, the water itself, the planet itself is primarily water. You look at the beaches, you look at, the land. Here, think about it like this. Saturn is oil, isn't it?
Yeah.
Rahu is gas. Think about it from the perspective of, by the time we get to the age of Aquarius, they're going to have to stop using it because the way the oil spills are becoming more pervasive, right? The 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 water itself is toxic, right? You can't just go on a beach like you used to be able to, right, back in the day, and just get in the water. They even tell you, they even have signs now. Enter at your own risk, right? Right? Swim at your own risk.
Right. Even where, like, I go back to, Ohio, Great Lakes, right? That's a fifth of the world's fresh water supply. That means 20% of the world's fresh water is the Great Lakes. And they ruined the Great Lakes. I mean, they're getting a little better now, but I mean, they ruined them. They went so hard, in the timber age and then into the industrial age and stuff like that. I mean, back when they was doing timber, they were just dumping that stuff out there.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I mean, right? I mean, think about the Colorado River where I live, right? Colorado River takes all the stuff that people put in the trash and the trash and the toxins and the chemicals and the byproducts, and it carries right on down to California.
Right. Look, in Cleveland, the Cuyahoga River, that's the main river going up into Lake Erie from Cleveland, it caught on fire.
No, you're
it caught
right.
on fire.
You're right. I remember they talked about that, where you could light the water. You could literally light the water on fire. That's crazy.
But it was a major event, though. Like, it literally caught on, like, engulfed.
Look, I mean, it's no laughing matter, but I mean, like, that's where we're headed. And I'm talking about the world round.
India has bad water now.
Horrible water. Right? And they're not even as industrialized as America. So when they get to that level, I mean, they're getting there fairly quickly. But when they get it, I mean, everywhere is going to be polluted. So pollutants is going to be a major thing. And think about it from the Rahu Ketu perspective, from Rahu perspective, right? Rahu deals in poisons, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? The age of Aquarius is also the sign of what? Purification. You only got to purify something if it's what? Dirt.
Dirty.
Right. So the age of Aquarius being the age of a purification is where you're going to have to purify things. Now, here's the thing. The technological advancements with regards to healthcare, right, will change as well. Right. But you're going to have to change, because the way things work is that you create cures for illnesses that manifest.
Right.
So it's going to change with it, but at the same time, it's going to be a very frustrating process, because man is literally undoing himself through the age of Aquarius. Not now. When we get there, we'll be in full bloom of it. It'll be in full swing. We're just starting to edge into it now.
Right.
The 7th house of relationships. You think people are individuals now? All about me and mine now? Yeah. Because what is happening is the and I'm not against women having equal rights. Not at all. But we just did a show about what? Gender, didn't we?
Right.
Right. We just did a show about gender. Gender is going bye-bye. I know it's not something I want to say. It's not what I want to say, trust me, but it is. Did you know that they're trying to change the Spanish language because the Spanish language has masculine and feminine genders in it?
Yeah. I didn't know that, but that's,
They're changing it. They want you to say Latinx. See, Latino is what? Masculine.
Yeah.
Latina is what? Feminine. They don't want you to say Latinx. The language is structured in a masculine, feminine, right, structure. They're trying to change. They're trying to get rid of that.
I think it'd be something. I mean, it'd be a version of what we see now, like as far as from a governmental perspective. But I think on the ground it's still, you know, I mean,
Well,
on the ground it's still going to be, you know what I mean? I mean, because it's biology. You understand what I'm saying? Like,
they're
you know,
changing that
it's
too.
right.
Right. You get some brothers get catfished out here. Right.
Yeah. But
I'm
they have
serious.
to work at it though. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to put in some work for
That's
that.
now. That's
Mm-hmm.
now. I'm talking about the technological advancements when they get here. You go in and you come out, right? And you looking like, like you gotta do it, you gotta like ask for birth certificates and stuff. Cause I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and that's that way now. Check this out. Plastic surgery 20 years ago, do you know how much it cost?
Oh, it was astronaut. It was out of here.
Women now get plastic surgery with a paycheck and
Right.
put a down payment on it and make payments. I'm not lying.
Oh no, absolutely. Yeah.
So
I
I'm
live in
saying just
Atlanta.
plastic surgery, right? But 20 years ago, that was for the rich,
Right.
right? That was for the wealthy. That was for, you had to be making, big money, six figures to go. Now, go to Cerebella.
Mm-hmm.
Go to Cerebella. Get yourself hooked up. You know, get your tummy tucked, get your breast lifted. It's nothing. That's when you're doing it with the female integrity in tow. Now you can get all kind of flips and flops and changes and cuts and snips for
Mm-hmm.
a little bit more. 10,000. You walk out of here different. I'm just saying that's now, and it's going to get
Right.
cheaper as it goes. So just consider when we get to the seventh house matter, right? Individualism, because it's Leo and the sun
Mm-hmm.
rules Leo, it's going to be about who has more power in the relationship. And it's not going to be power in the sense of masculine and feminine, none of those things. The dynamic will be completely different. It'll be a whole different conversation about relationships. It will not be the same. And that undermines the world from a grander scale even more so. I mean, you're right. There are certain countries that are still kind of archaic, like India and things of like that nature, that still haven't come up to that level. Oh, but they're getting there,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's slowly matriculating around the world, right? When you start talking about changing languages, that's a big deal because now you're changing the vernacular of something that's been around. Latin has been around, folks, since for ages, right? Rome used to speak in Latin. Latin is
Mm-hmm.
they say it's a dead language, but Spanish is a derivative of Latin.
French, Italian, and Portuguese.
Right. So these are all derivative of languages that have gender specific words, and they're trying to change the context. So when you get to the age of Aquarius, those things will be even more so in play, and relationships will then be about a whole different dynamic of literally you're not going to sharing power will not be a conversation as it was as it is now. Won't be no sharing of power. It'll be me and it'll be you, and then it'll be what we do at the same time, but not together. We'll do it at the same time, but we won't do it together. It's completely different. It's mind blowing almost to think about it. And when you get to the eighth house is Virgo for Aquarius ascendant, and a Virgo is literally the sign that loves to figure things out, to research. The eighth house is research itself. So combining the two, Aquariuses love to dig into things. They like to go deep. They like to know things. They like to get into stuff. But the other side of it is that eighth house deals with unexpected sudden events. And it's going to be very catastrophic worldwide because Virgo is illness itself. It deals with sickness. So the transformational process, the worldwide, will deal with illnesses, sickness, and also deal with supreme technological advancements. Though I must say the other side of the equation, there goes two ways, and we're talking about space travel and things like that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying we're going to be. By that time, we will be in Mars. I can guarantee you that, folks. We'll be in other planets. other planet will be in other planetary bodies in the solar system by that time. I promise you this. They're talking about Mars now.
Mm-hmm.
Mars is 20 years away from now, folks. That's not far. That's way before the Age of Aquarius. So by the time the Age of Aquarius comes, or we'll be on other planets in the solar system, leaving trash. Right. I mean, space junk. No, if you don't believe me, go look at you can go and Google it. You can go there, show you this is a map of all of the satellites that are in space. Or you think it's one or two here or there?
No, it's a whole man on the night sky app. It shows you where all the satellites are. It'll tell you, like, I get a notification that says International Space Station flying over now. You know, blah blah blah. This satellite flying over. Like, I mean, it's like cluttered.
If you look at it from the real, it looks like a ball of trash.
Right.
Straight up. I'm not lying, folks. And that's now. And they're still launching rocket after satellite after rocket after satellite after rocket. By the time we get there, when aliens, I mean, you know, I'm sure I'm in my belief, right? I think they've already kind of checked us out. I'm like, these people crazy, right? But nonetheless, just watch. But nonetheless, if there weren't aliens and they did come then, or they'd be like, oh, they live in a ball of trash. The trash is surrounded the planet. You got to navigate through the trash to get into the planet. I mean, that's the way it is now. So imagine 400 years from now, it's we literally be encompassed in a ball of trash. You'll be taking your trash to the moons of Jupiter, and you know, I'm sure they'll have like Coke bottles. You see you see in the movies, like they have Coke bottles on Mars sitting there. It's coming, folks.
You're gonna see they're gonna have space explosions trying to evaporate.
Yeah, they're gonna try to fling that stuff into the sun, right? And then have a solar flare and all kind of crazy crap coming. I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's headed in that direction because the way the world over is headed, it's literally that eighth house it deals in deep research, it deals in hidden matters, it deals in going and finding out things that no one has ever, you know, considered or thought about. But at the same time, it is Virgo, and Virgo, right? Think about it from this perspective. Aquarius ties the fifth house into the eighth house. So the eighth house is sudden unexpected things tied into the creative intelligence. So the creative intelligence is going to literally be dealing with problems constantly through the eighth house, do things that are uncomfortable, changing and shifting. It's going to be quite a ride, right? And no ordinary woman, I'm not like Awani is saying, it's a ride to be an Aquarius Ascendant. So for the world over to be an Aquarius Ascendant, well, you better, man is going to have to buckle up. And when you get to the ninth house of Libra, right, the balance of the scales between God and man, right, between clergy and the common folk, right, is going to be there'll be it'll be equidistant. Won't have these things on high like you have now. See, in the age of Pisces, right, the ninth house is Scorpio, and war was the main theme for many hundreds of years, right, in the age of Pisces, wasn't it? War for religion, right? Because Mars rules the ninth house in the age of Pisces. Well, Venus will rule the ninth house in the age of Aquarius. So it'll be a completely different structure. Remember, religion is going out the door. By that time, religion will be somewhat passe. It'll still be here, but it won't be
systems.
Right.
Belief systems, like more the belief systems will, you know, that aspect of religion, right? The things that you can't, that has no real scientific basis to it. You know, the things that you're just doing because this book says so, right?
Right, just blindly doing it. No, that's gone. That's going to be gone, right? You'll still have your, you know, Jehovah's Witnesses. They'll be, you know, tapping on
small fringe groups.
Yeah, but it won't be en masse like it is now. And then when you get to the 10th house of Scorpio, right? The 10th house of Scorpio, governments, right? Governments will transform, right? The hierarchy, oh yeah. Now the religious hierarchy will be right on an even playing field, is what I'm trying to tell you, right? With the masses at hand, right? Because Libra is about what? Fairness and what? Equality. So
Right.
God won't be so on high, right? It'll be right across the way from you. You won't have to go and talk to some person behind a sliding door with a silhouette and say, you know, 90 Hail Marys, right? That'd be
Hmm.
dead. But what will happen is you'll be counted upon for your moralistic purviews and living by the law of the land. That will be more the religion. Did you recycle? Oh, you're a sinner, right? You didn't recycle? Oh, you're a sinner, right? You didn't, right? Voting, oh, voting will be through this thing here, right? Casting
Or
ballots will be dead soon. You
I
have a
think the phone. I
fingerprint.
think the phone's gonna be gone.
Oh, I mean, you have watches, all those things.
Yeah.
You
Ring.
got all
I
kind of stuff
bought.
that's gadget. And,
I bought. I made a ring is a aura ring, or whatnot.
mm,
That's what I mean. For her birthday, she wanted an aura ring, and it's like it doesn't. You can't communicate through it, but it's collecting data. You understand what I'm saying? It's a
we
gold
saw
ring,
Star
but it
Trek.
collects data.
We all
Sleeping
saw Star
patterns.
Trek. Right? Yeah,
You say
you
what?
have it on the collar. Yeah, you
Hmm.
hit the little thing on the collar, you know, or you have something on your wrist and it pops up. We saw Black Panther, right? You had a little thing bead on your thing, pops up, boom.
The technology for that already exists. It's already here. It's not.
Yeah,
It hasn't been formulated into a consumer product yet.
right. Exactly.
Augmented technology.
I'm just saying, right? But the 10th house is leadership and government, massive, right? Things that command other things. And the 10th house being Scorpio for Aquarius ascendant, the leadership itself will go through a completely different. It'll be completely transformed. It will not even resemble what you and I know today. Like I said, it will be a governmental global body that will be running this. It will be people that are appointed, and you're going to have to be tested and those types of things. I mean, if we were intelligent, see, our ancient ancestors knew some things. You just didn't let anybody run. We had what's called the Heb Sed. I don't know if most of you have ever heard of it before, but the Heb Sed is where the Nasut, the proper term, which we call the Pharaoh, right? Missed the Greek term, right? What did you think the king had to do? He had to run 4 miles, right, to show himself what? Fit and
Right.
healthy. If Biden had to run 4 blocks,
Mm.
right, we have a new president, right? Now Putin probably could do it, right? I'm not.
Right.
Putin probably could, get around. He might get to 33 miles and be a little, be winded, but he could get to that fourth mile. Biden, no, it'll be dust, right, coming out of him before he gets to a mile, right? But that's how we did in ancient times, right?
Right.
We made sure that the king was fit to what? To rule. It
Lead.
doesn't mean that they were morally upright all the time, but you darn for sure can be morally upright and be unhealthy. Just doesn't
Hmm.
necessarily go hand in hand. So the kingship, the rulership, the powers that be, the governmental structures, the orders that command the world will go through a complete rehaul transformation, and they'll be tested, they'll be tried, they'll be go through different processes. And what I vie is that governments will compete for the world to sit on that throne. Meaning we'll
Right.
find the best of the best and put those out there to compete to make sure that because Scorpio is a sign that deals in put you can't hide from Scorpio. You think you can hide? One sign that can detect all the BS in you is Scorpio. because they can feel you. They know, yeah, you lying. Nah, you ain't telling the truth. You might say one thing, but your energy is telling us another. So the governments will be tested. The governments will go through transformational process. The governments will be they'll be exposed, so to speak. All of your dirty laundry will be pulled out. And that's the way they're doing it. It's kind of happening that way in some degree now, because you really can't hide nothing anymore. You
Mm-hmm.
got things, people pop up your stuff, and now, I mean, look at Bill Clinton, perfect example. All the leaders, whatever dirt is come there, it's gonna come out, right? So the old way of doing things now, where we try to think that we can politic this thing through, that's gonna be gone. No, you'll literally have world leaders in power and position to make decisions for global apparatuses. And it has to be that way to some degree, because in order for us to move forward and to do those types of vast space explorations and get out there and necessarily navigate, right, the navigate space, you're going to have a global economy. You're going to have to, I mean, Star Trek is to some degree a projection of the future to some degree. It is, that does have, because you don't have, like they even tell you, we don't have money like that here. Go watch the old Star Trek movies, or even the new ones. They tell you they don't have money,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's leaning towards that, and it will be more prominent in the Age of Aquarius when it really comes into full bloom, because you'll have those transactions where, like my man said, it you got credits, right? Like, how many credits do you have? And a credit will be a credit. It won't be like, one credit over here, one credit. It will be literally it will be one type of currency. You may have different ways to measure it based on certain backings of that country, but for the most part, it still will have an equal playing field on around the world, as far as, and it's gonna, to deal with the things that are coming, the mechanisms that are coming out of this, you're gonna have to have it that way, because the world itself is under great distress right now. To clean up the world, you're going to have to get rid of the cash system. And we get to the 11th house. We kind of talked about it. We talked about the second house to some degree. Sagittarius is the second house. So groups and organizations, right, will literally be those things that are now going to catapult man, right, into higher levels of existence, right? Organizations themselves will literally become almost, I don't say godlike, but to a point where they'll have high value. Right? What organization are you part of? What group do you belong to? You will be looked upon as something less than human if you don't belong to some organization or group or outfit.
Right.
Right? The 11th house deals with those types of things, and Sagittarius is a sign that shoots for the heavens. So that will have a high value, and that will be tied into how you make your money. Because, like you said, making your money will be more of the skill set that you bring to the table, right? What are your trades? What are your abilities? What do you know? Not, can you just sit and push a button? Because the buttons
Right.
will be pushed for you.
Right.
They're going to have machines to do a lot of this stuff now. I mean, a lot of the movies are telling you what is to come. Um, the Matrix, right? When you go
Mm-hmm.
watch the Matrix, the Animatrix tells you about the Matrix. Watch the Animatrix, because the Animatrix tells you how they got there. It was a machine war, right? Even in Dune, I don't know if you ever heard of them. Dune is now a major motion picture. It wasn't back, but I was into it back in the day. I'm a sci-fi kind of weird. I like sci-fi, and that's the kind of movies I prefer to watch over a lot of these other stuff. But nonetheless, in Dune, they had a war against the machines.
Mm-hmm.
In Star Trek, I mean Star Wars, right? The Clone Wars was
Mm-hmm.
to get rid of the what? The machines, wasn't it? To get rid of the
Right.
robots that was fighting the wars. All of these futuristic movies tell you that at some point, right, this kind of outlier, outplay of way that man is headed, machines will be a big power play as far as how things are done. It's just the way it works. Terminator, right?
Mm-hmm.
The right? AI, artificial intelligence, right? Um, iRobot, right? You could go on down the list. Something in man's subconscious, and that's what the movies give us. It's a purview of our subconscious. It tells us that this is what is coming,
Right.
right? And the 12th house, as we already talked about, is Capricorn, which ties back to the first house, right? And those two combined means that you, as a conglomerate, as a whole, as an entity on this earth, will be your own undoing. If you don't change, the world will go on without you, but you'll succumb to so many challenges and issues that you're going to have to face the music, either, as they say, use it or get off the pot. And trust me, the world will continue to go. It's a self-fixing mechanism. If you think that by chance that the sea levels rising and the global temperature rising, they're not connected, of course they are, but it's almost like the earth has a fever. It's getting
Mm-hmm.
hot, and that fever at some point will literally release what? Diseases, right? When the waters, those things that are kind of encompassed in those glacial kind of
Oh yeah, there's
circumstances.
diseases trapped in Siberia, Antarctica, the North. Yeah, there's diseases that's been gone for millions of
Yeah.
years.
Guess what? Right? Have you ever heard of the Mandeans? The
Yeah.
Mandeans, right, were the Samaritans of old. The Samaritans had as their religion a got a Battlestar Galactica, yes sir, right? Or yes ma'am. Not sure if you male or female, but right. The Samaritans were big on baptism. Did you know that the majority of their religious body was wiped out because there were certain diseases that they were catching through water in baptism, and they had to stop? Now we don't know what those diseases are, but they were there. So imagine now that the world round is experiencing these kind of different shifts, and the waters move throughout the planet. They don't stay stationary, right? So these things are being released. And these things being released, oh, you thought COVID was something. Yeah. Yeah. COVID just tapped you on the shoulder to let you know that you're a global entity now. And I'm pretty sure global COVID has a lot to do with man's influence, right? I don't think it's an arbitrary from a bat, right? Just like they said AIDS was from a monkey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doubtful, right? I mean, Africans been dealing with monkeys for millions of years, right? And now all of a sudden, are you eating monkeys so you get no, right? Asians have been eating. Look, y'all don't know what Chinese food is. Y'all think y'all know what Chinese food is, right? You think that egg foo young and your shrimp fried rice and your sesame chicken, that's not Chinese food. That's Chinese American food. Chinese food. And I'm telling you, even in Chinese medicine, they deal with a whole host of things,
Yeah.
right? So they've been
Yeah.
dealing with bats for a long time.
I got a formula that I take and I probably need to, I don't know, I'm probably need to do another round of it. But one of the ingredients is mantis eggs.
I got one up here on my shelf with deer horn in it.
Oh yeah, that's that Lou wrong. But yeah, mantis eggs.
Oh, mantis eggs, bug eggs. I mean, I'm just saying, like, Chinese have been dealing with bats and all this kind of thing for years. That's nothing new to them. You think, oh, they call them wet markets. Wet markets have been around a long time, people. It is nothing new. And now all of a sudden, a wet market produced a global. No, that's just
Mm.
not the way it works. Right. But nonetheless, right, that's neither here nor there. I think we've actually going to have to do a part two to the part two, right? Because we still need to cover the nakshatras, right? So what
Right.
we'll do is at some point, right, do a part two to the part two. And we'll go through the nakshatra system to talk about Shasta Bishak, talk about Dahanishta, and talk about the padas within these, because these are telltale signs of when we will hit these minor milestones of change, right, within the construct of Aquarius. And that will give us a lot more pinpointing specifics of what to look for and how to look at things from a much more fine-tuned and refined placement. Just going through the houses alone, as you can see, right, is a lot of information to deal with. But looking at it from the nakshatras and from those padas, those particular 3 degrees, 20 minutes of each one of those portions gets even deeper. So we'll do a part two to the part two because we've been here for 2 hours, folks, and it seemed like it's been a half an hour, 45 minutes. So we'll definitely
Indeed.
do that.
Indeed. Yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna be interesting. I'm really yeah, when we do this one, that part two, but the Age of Capricorn is gonna be interesting as well.
Oh man, because looking at it from this inner view, it's a whole different animal, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
Looking at the sixth house of Cancer and the waters of the planet itself being, I mean, serious business. Right? Serious business. So yeah, this has been a great show, folks. I appreciate everybody that showed up today. Big ups to K. Wright Carr. Big ups to No Ordinary Woman and Awani. Thank y'all for your participation. We love to see, the interaction between our audience and ourselves. In fact, we really would try to do a show before it's all said and done where you all can come on and we can even sit down and have the conversations, and interact with one another so we can really kind of have some fun and do some other things for the people. So
We opened it up, man, but they scared.
oh, y'all scared to come on in?
They scared, man. They don't be wanting to come up.
Come on in, man.
So I just stopped asking.
Hey, see, my man got it opened up, so take advantage, chime in. Let's talk, let's build. We're not going to chew you up or test your knowledge. We want to just have interaction and have a conversation. So, but thank y'all for showing up again. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button. Share this with your people. Share it with people around you. So everybody can be informed. And also, do go over to Kalapurusha Astrology channel here on YouTube. There are some old but goodies, right? There will be videos coming. It's just my side is taking a little longer because my person has a real contingency with how things have to be. And I'm all ready to go, but I've just got one button to push. And once that happens, the ball will be rolling pretty quickly. So definitely stay subscribed over there because once they hit, you'll get your notifications there as well. So we can definitely talk about some topics on that side. But it's been a great show. And again, we'll be doing a part two and a part two soon.
So he's a walking, talking case study of the Chitra Nakshatra.
I am. All right, my moon is literally with less than a 2 minutes difference of Shitra moon or Shitra star. Yeah. So yeah, when it talks about making sure it's right, it's gonna be right.
Indeed. Well, like I said, we ain't gonna hold you too much longer. Thank you all for tuning in. This was episode 109 overall, episode 9 of season 5. Definitely watch this again, and like Ross said, go subscribe to Kalapurusha. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet. Go subscribe to Ninth Lord Films as well. Definitely. Or whatnot. Be on the lookout for everything from there. And yeah, man, let people know. And Patreon. Also hit the Patreon. We got shows on Patreon that you haven't seen. You know what I'm saying? And stuff like that. So definitely check that out or whatnot. But, like I said, this has been episode 109. And, thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back next week with another great show. And we're out. Peace.